wasn't it? I used to drive the bus for the day centre, and I had a bus full of about, I suppose, 8 ladies and a couple of gents. And of those 8 ladies, I think about 6 were Margarets.
What next then?
What next, indeed? Now,
Can Robin change his position so that we can actually see more than the top of his head?
Or change the camera position, yeah.
Is that you, Bill?
Wish of that, yes. It's me. How are you?
Nice to see you.
You too.
right, well, I don't know if Richard's going to manage. Oh,
No,
there he
he's
is.
back.
He's back.
Can
Hello,
you hear
Richard.
us, Richard?
Turn your volume up.
Yeah.
Maybe Robin can't hear you either.
I don't know. Philip, can you hear us? Philip Rayner.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm
Okay.
here.
Oh,
But where I am is neither here nor there.
Okay, can you tilt your camera down a bit so we can see less of the dome?
Oh, hang on, I have to get Rowan because she's operating this damn thing. Hang on.
Just bend it back.
Eh?
Is it a laptop?
Yes.
Just, yeah, that's it.
better.
That's
Is that it?
perfect.
That's it.
You
All
got
right.
down, Robin.
Excellent.
You can see my receding hairline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay, gents, I think we're almost
Ready to go.
here that probably are going to be here. That's 17 of us at the moment. Everybody can hear and everybody can see.
Yep.
Okay. I'll just ask Richard to unmute his. Nope, nothing yet. Richard, if you can hear me, could you raise your thumb, please? Just give me a thumbs up. Good. Okay.
That's good.
Somewhere on your screen, probably down left corner, you may see a little microphone. Thing looks like an old BBC microphone. If you just tap that.
If it's on an iPad, it will be up on the top right.
Okay. Oh, here's Michael Kirby.
Stop. Yeah.
Right, Michael should be joining us in a second.
Yeah.
There it is. Morning,
Yeah.
Michael.
Morning, Michael.
Morning, Michael.
Morning.
Okay, right. I think, Richard, we're going to have to go ahead. You may be able to get your microphone working in due course. Okay, right. Some of you have muted yourselves. Let's see. I think I can help with unmuting at this end. Okay, right, gentlemen, good morning and welcome. And thank you very much indeed for attending this AGM in somewhat unusual circumstances. Really, the first thing I have to do, we'll let Philip get his seat again. There we go. Okay, the first thing I have to do is explain to you all why I'm chairing this and not Gregor, as you might have expected. Really, one has to go back over the last year and consider the amount of disruption that the year caused, but also the fact that both Tom and Gregor were at one stage or another laid low by illness. Tom was hospitalized for a stage, but you can see he's up and well again and tells me he's now walking 6 miles a day just about, which is fantastic. Gregor suffered from cancer, and thankfully we're looking at him too and seeing that he is well and fit. But
Good morning, all.
Morning.
morning,
Gregor.
morning, Tom. However, Gregor has decided that it would be pushing himself too far, really, to take on the role which he had intended to take on this year of being chairman. So when we last met on Thursday last week, the committee decided to ask myself and Ian if we would stand in as sort of temporary emergency chairman. Ian is far too wily an old fox to take up any role which is merely a temp. So he dodged it, and I was too slow, too deaf, too blind, and thus have arrived at this position where I find myself for another sort of session looking at you and saying, well, I have been put forward as the chairman. Now, clearly that is with your agreement. And I don't know, Jerry, we haven't had a chance to find out if anybody else has been put forward as chair. Have you heard of anyone?
No, we've got Stuart McCrea lying in the boondocks that were ready to come in as vice chairman, but nobody for chairman. Can you hear me all right?
Just,
Yeah.
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 You know,
Okay, that's what I say. I'm half deaf, so I can't hear. Okay, so is it acceptable that I continue in this role?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okie dokie. Well, unfortunately, my first duty, if you like, is a rather sad one. Some of you will have heard, some will not have heard, that Jim Wiley passed away a couple of days ago. So I'd like to just say a little bit about Jim and accord him our normal and traditional salutation, albeit in a somewhat unusual circumstance. Jim was born in Paisley in 1926, and his first period away from home was to train as a Bevan boy. He was 18 when he was posted to Loch Gellimine in Fife, and he described his worst job there as that of unloading a 13-ton railway wagon of bricks. The job was so hard on his hands. He described that as being even worse than being down the mines. Jim was intensely proud of his time as a Bevan boy, and he lamented the length of time it took for public appreciation to grow. He worked for 3 years as a miner, and after the war, he trained as a piano tuner and set up his own business, eventually moving to live here in Haddington. You all know Jim. His quiet and lovely manner will be missed by us all. So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask, as I said, despite these somewhat artificial circumstances, I'm going to ask us all to observe a minute's silence in memory of Jim Wiley. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well, it's even telling me the minute is up. Okay, now let's proceed on happier note. Can I ask Jerry to read the minutes of the last AGM, which, if your memory serves you right, stretches back to about 2019.
well done. Can you hear me all right, folks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Haddington Probus Club Secretary Report 2019 to 2020. At the beginning of the session, there were 46 members. 5 have gone, including Jim Wiley, who has sadly passed away. No new members have joined, so current membership stands at 41. Average attendance at meetings stood at 30. The session was brought to an end in March 2020 with the advent of the COVID pandemic. Meetings were held using the Zoom facility, thanks largely to the technical expertise of David Hare, and 2 speakers addressed the club, one from the Royal Navy and one from, I can't remember who. It was the Coastal Air Cover, something like that.
Got the wrong one, David.
That's the report for the last year, which is it was.
You've got the wrong page, Jerry. It should be in 2019, the last AGM.
Wait a minute, let's get this right. So it finished in March 2020. Right, hold on a second.
2000.
What's happening?
I'm searching my files. I'll be there in a minute, or maybe a fortnight. Look, can you carry on with the meeting, and I'll come back to you later.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, right. The next thing was to move on to, if you like, chairman review. Now, a little bit odd. I don't want to keep repeating that, but what we've done is we've asked Tom to give us a review of both 1920 and 2021. So Tom, can I hand over to you, please?
Yes, thank you. Can I check you can hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, what I'll be doing from time to time is to pay tribute to those who offered me support and advice and a kick up the backside, starting around May 2019. My backside became quite tender, I can tell you. Now, during these references to the obvious efforts that were put in, I'll call for a bit of clapping from time to time, and I'll signal this by raising my hand. And it means that you'll have to be prepared to let go your chair or whatever or whoever you're holding on to in order to achieve this goal. First of all, I had as a chairman the support and the brain power of a strong committee. And David gave me a clear outline at the beginning of the road ahead based on his experiences during his excellent year in office. So can we have our first clap to David and the committee?
Thanks, Tom.
Now, when we got underway in September, Russell Darling constantly offered reassuring technology welcome to each speaker, regardless of the equipment or lack of it, which was involved. Around 9:30, Russell was always there, talking in a kind of quiet undertone, apparently in some language that was from another planet, as far as I was concerned. And my job was just to provide tea or coffee in the midst of the setting up procedures, and to try not to drop the digestive biscuit which was perched on the edge of the speaker's saucer. Now, as all the relaxed members obtained pleasantries in the run-up to 10 o'clock, I was in a bit of a state normally, waiting for the frequently late speaker, wondering who would contribute Plan B if the speaker didn't turn up. And the closest shave was the speaker who turned up at 1 minute to 10, quite unperturbed. So to the people such as Russell and David, who turned up early, for duplicate the words, thank you very much. Okay.
Tom, can I stop you for a second? We've got
Yes.
somebody who's breathing very close to the microphone, and we've got this kind of rumbling all the time. If I mute everybody, can both you, Tom, and Jerry, can you unmute yourselves once you need to speak? Jerry, do you know how to do that?
No.
No, I don't either.
Okay, right. Okay, well, somebody.
The interference is coming from Jerry's apparatus.
Okay.
If Jerry has any way of being unmuted or being muted, that's the way to stop it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's told us that he doesn't know how to unmute. Just lean a wee bit back from your microphone, Jerry, just unless you're going to speak. Okay.
Leaning well back, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a crackling. It's a crackling coming from a bad connection.
Okay, okay, and maybe rustling papers as well.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Right.
I'm going to be muted.
Okay.
Yeah, the interference is coming from a bad connection, which I suspect is on Jerry's apparatus, that crackling that we're getting.
Yeah.
And also the rumbling, which could be a heart pacer or something of the sort.
Don't have one. I have got a heart, but I don't have a pacer.
We'll give you something to be excited about, Jerry.
Okay, right. I'll try to mute people.
I speak from experience. When I worked at the BBC, we used to have trouble with people who had noisy false teeth that made so much clicking you couldn't hear them talking.
Well, on that lovely note, what I'll do, gentlemen, is I shall mute everybody individually apart from Jerry.
Good idea.
And let Tom proceed. So, okay. I take it everybody else knows how to unmute. Okay, right, Tom, fire ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's a relief. Do you want to hear me? Now, moving on to David Elder, our intrepid photographer. Now, great patience and diplomacy I noticed there, and he escorted each speaker after the meeting and me to out of the hot meeting room into the cold chamber beyond for a fortnightly photograph session. And I think David deserves our thanks for that. The great patience out here to wait for 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes after the meeting is extricate the speaker and take them through for a photograph. So thank you very much, David.
Thanks, David.
Now, a great concern of any society or club is the maintenance of attendance numbers. And this was a feature of our work as a committee to try to defend our numbers and increase our numbers. A lot of work went on quietly behind the scenes, but I must thank all those members who deliberately planned to speak to friends and neighbours and associates to try to encourage them to come or to continue to stick with it. I remember, however, my brother's story. He's in a church in Glasgow, and one day the minister thought of a tremendous idea. It was 10 in the Sunday school attending most of the service, and he said, you should bring a friend with you, children. So next Sunday, bring a friend, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it. Now the following Sunday, the 10 Sunday school members had been cut down to 2 for obvious reasons. So we decided not to ask people to bring a friend, because quite frankly it doesn't work, and there's a lot of pressure on the members when they're under the spotlight. It was the beginnings of a policy of outreach in 2019-20, and this was deliberate to try to go above and beyond the Monday meetings. And we, for example, visited Loretto School, and had hoped also that we would visit the service, the Christmas service at the school. It was a warm invitation to that. But the beginnings were there, and we were planning to go to a recycling plant where refuse was converted into energy for people's houses, and that was well supported in our plan. But of course, COVID got in the way, and we didn't quite make it. But these are the kinds of things that, as chairman, I was quite keen to go on with, and I hope that in the future we'll outreach. We also deliberately strengthened our link with Knox Academy, and we planned to go to their annual concert as a Probus group, much supported by the, I'll call it the headmistress. And that's something that I think should be encouraged. We had a wonderful couple of support sessions from the school pupils, very impressive Christmas lunch and the Burns lunch. So that's something that Knox will be looking to us to follow up, to support them in the coming years. Now, David led us very vigorously and effectively in our link with other Probus groups. We had a strong meeting right and proper with other groups in East Lothian. And as far as I know, this is something that is in the background for the future, and David may well mention that. We will support these other groups as well, because some of them are not as strong as we are, but we are picking up ideas, and we're focusing our thoughts on advancing, for example, the possibility of having women members. Other groups have that, and we weighed in the balance during my session, the pros and the cons of that. So thank you very much, David, for that. Now, we also need to thank Graham Coe and Peter Maitland for their gallant efforts to encourage the walking group, and they much appreciated these walking groups. Walks were well described in advance, and a lot of encouragement came from Graham. I'm just wondering about in present situation, Graham, if you could introduce a cycling group, but maybe not. Maybe that's a step too far. But we don't know. Now, each of us has our recollections of the meetings and the speakers in 2019 and 20. And I'm not going to run through the syllabus for that year. I just think that one thing I noticed was that the speakers accepted our invitations to speak with great enthusiasm and confidence, and I take that as a mark of a high regard that the Haddington Probus is held in by society as a whole. I don't think I can recollect anybody who said, no, I'm not prepared to come. The opposite was the case, that they were very keen to come. And partly, why was that? That was because it was Haddington Probus. Now, turning to 2020-21, we're very grateful to Gregor for, in the face of serious health issues, he manfully took up office as chairman, but then he remitted office very wisely. And he's continuing to help the club with his amazing range of speaker connections. This is really impressive. And this is going to permeate into future meetings and will be of great value to us. He's continued, Gregor, he's agreed to continue on the committee and will also be a speaker, which we're looking forward to greatly. And he's going to talk about his adventure at the BBC. And we've also got to remember Gregor and Mary's very kind invitation to go up to the barbecue in the grounds of Salton House. That is another thing which took the shape of an outreach, getting away up from Monday mornings all the time and getting out and about. And they were hoping with Gregor that they may be invited to go back for another barbecue in due course. Now, just a few finishing one. COVID has dominated us, and there's a speech talk that I heard about a guy who went to the vaccination centre to be vaccinated against COVID, and he went home and he discovered that his eyes were all hazy. So he phoned up the vaccination centre and said, what should I do? Should I go to the doctor about this, or should I go to the hospital? And the vaccination centre said, no, don't do that, don't do that. Come straight back here and collect your glasses. Some of you might find that a little bit. So thank you very much for the support which I got as chairman. And on Gregor's behalf, thank you very much for the continuing support in these very difficult times. And I may have missed one or two things. I was very impressed by the team effort of the Christmas lunch and also the Burns lunch. I thought that these were highlights for me, and the thanks to the members for all the support and the effort that they put in. I hope I've not missed out anything that's serious. That's really all I have to say. David?
That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
I wasn't muted, I don't think.
No, I'm actually, Jerry, unless you're desperate, I'm going to have to mute you because you're the only one unmuted and we're getting a lot of crackling and rumbling. So sorry about that. Okay. Right. So thank you very much indeed, Tom, for that very comprehensive and really spreading the praise around, which is a typical feature of yourself. So thank you very much indeed for that review. I think we can probably do without the minutes of the AGM in 2019. I think that is now, as they say, history. What I wanted to do myself just for a second or two was maybe look into the future. Tom has taken us on a voyage into the past. Let me now try and give you some indication of what's going on. We've been meeting as a committee now, most of us anyway. Jerry's had technical problems, but we've been meeting and working quite hard. Our last meeting, in fact, last Thursday was all of 2 hours long. And as I said to the rest of the committee afterwards, it required me to take 2 paracetamol, 2 cups of coffee, and 2 days to recover from. So we are working hard in a sense to try and make up for lost time and lost ground. We're very, very conscious that today we have something like 18 members present. Obviously, a fair sprinkling of those are committee members. So we're equally excluding a fair number of our members who have not been able to join us for whatever reason. And that's a sad situation. We are clearly, I think, going to have to take some means to contact members who aren't on the technological loop, if you like, and that will be a priority. One of the things which we don't know clearly is exactly what the future holds for COVID and us. Clearly, there are implications for our attendance at the Maitland Field. I was speaking to Stacey last week, quite a comprehensive chat about what the future was likely to hold. At the moment, she is waiting for the government to, if you like, flesh out its general guidance. And we don't really know where that's going to take us. She is hopeful that after July, meetings of a reasonable number will be allowed in the Maitland Field with masks and wearing masks, socially distanced, and also with track and trace. So the hope is there. However, we've gone down the road of being slightly cautious, and we're arranging our first 3 sessions of the next year on Zoom. Not satisfactory, but better than nothing, with the hope that we would meet face to face in early October, with the hope being that by that stage, conditions will have enabled that and opened the route for us getting back together again, which obviously would be a much more satisfactory situation. So we're working hard on getting a list of speakers drawn up. We now have at least a list of potentials slotted in. We have dates sorted. So that is all going ahead. Looking at more, if you like, important matters, more general matters, if you like. Our present membership, as Jerry said, is around 40. But if you go through that list, there are several in it who have not appeared at meetings for quite some considerable time. So I rather suspect that actual membership is much less. So we do, I think, have a bit of a membership, well, I won't go so far as to say crisis, that's over egging the matter, but it's a problem. We've been in touch already. Ian Smith has been in touch with other Probus clubs branches that we had contacted 2 or 3 years ago when we were kind of reach out to try and find out what other clubs were doing and so on. And one of those, the Pentland chairman, is clearly thinking very much along the same lines as ourselves, seeing things beginning to change in society, seeing attitudes beginning to change, and rather wondering how Probus is going to deal with all of that. One of the issues which has been bubbling around the committee now for several years is the issue of increasing the membership by opening this branch up to women. That is already done in North Berwick and I think in Dunbar. Tranent branch has, as far as our latest information is concerned, ceased to function because of lack of numbers. So clearly there are moves afoot around the county, never mind anywhere else, which we need to consider, and we need to consider as a whole membership and not simply as part of a committee. So that's one of the issues we'll be looking at in more detail. We're looking at the issue of trying to, as Tom was intimating, we're trying to reach out to other branches, perhaps to give them a hand, or even to receive a hand, and to establish some sort of sharing of membership in a sense, but trying to boost our numbers in order that we can then function in things like outings and lunches and so on with much greater security. At the moment, our numbers make some of our functions barely viable. So that is something we're looking at as well. Ian has suggested that we even reach out to Trinent and say that, look, if any of the members in Trinent wish to continue an association with Probus, would they like to come along and join in our meetings? So again, another issue which really you need to agree to and be happy with. Another issue for examination on another day. Let me just think. The link to Knox that Tom mentioned, I think we're very keen to keep that going. They were absolutely marvelous at the Burns lunches that we had, and provided, I would have thought, in a very large measure, that the highlights of those lunches. So we wish to keep that going. So is that or is that not plenty to be going on with? I think it is. I think it is. Okay. Anything else I want to say? Well, as far as our usual sort of social highlights are concerned, we are aiming to have our Christmas lunch and the Burns lunch in their traditional slots, but we're also considering adding on an end of session lunch and trying to round off what has been a difficult period for all of us and the club in particular with something a little bit more optimistic and happy. So they were hoping to slot in a lunch sometime towards the end of our session. Our annual outing, hopefully we'll be able to go ahead, even if we all have to drive to wherever it is we go. And we're actively considering local outings of the like which we did over the last 2 or 3 years, for example, to Glenkinchie and the Scottish Parliament and so on. So plenty going on, gentlemen, you can be assured of that. Okay, now let me see where to now. Ian, we're looking for the financial report, so I'll have to ask you to unmute. You're unmuted?
Yep.
Good, excellent. So the financial report for last session.
Okay. You'll have seen the summary of this this little account. It is a little account. There's been very, very few transactions this past 12 months. There were no subscriptions, no person meeting costs or revenues, no coffee mornings, no lunches, no outings. In fact, very, very little to report. But having said all of that, we've still got a fairly healthy bank balance at the end of the year. So I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of questions on the accounts, but feel free.
I shall have to unmute everybody if there are.
I don't think there's going to be somehow. Right. The next thing is, or on these accounts, these have been unaudited. The year end was the 30th of April. This is now the 3rd of May. So getting them out and audited is really just not possible. But we will attend to that in due course. On the matter of subscriptions, there was none last year. You got a free year. The proposition for the coming session starting September is that you get another free year. Unless, of course, you all put your hands up and say, no, 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 I really want to pay. Hands up. And the last thing I've got to say, it refers back to my comment about getting the accounts out and audited, is that with a year end of the 30th of April and an AGM in May, it really isn't feasible. So I propose that we move the year end back to the 31st of March, and therefore we should be able to have them prepared, audited, and circulated by the AGM. Everybody agree to that? Nodding all round as far as I can see. And that really is the end of the financial report. So back to you, David.
Okay, okay, thank you. Now, okay, we're all back together again. Excellent. Thank you very much, Ian. One small item, just thinking about finance. is that in speaking to Stacey, she mentioned that the coffee money that and the hire money that we each pay at the meetings was going to have to go up. She said $2.50. After discussion in the committee, we reckoned that £3 was an equitable amount of money to have to pay each week to cover both the coffee, the biscuits, and the hire. So we hope that you're all happy with that. I think if you all put thumbs up, then Ian will be the happiest of all, since he will no longer have to deal with the possibility of 50p's floating around. Thank you. That's good. Okay, now Jerry, you can hear me. Have you learnt yet how to unmute?
I think the answer to that is no. His mic is still showing as muted.
Okay, right. Well, Jerry, I'm extremely sorry about this, but we can only have to proceed. But it was your microphone that was causing the problems, since everything has been fine since.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're back. Good.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, Jerry, can we ask you to cover the?
Sorry.
Can I ask you to cover the nominations for next year?
Can I come in with something else first?
Can you come in with what?
Something else first.
Yeah, fire ahead.
The year 2022 is quite an important year for us. It'll be 40 years since our inception, and we were discussing an annual dinner for that event. And B, we have a photo every 5 years, and next year, 2022, is another photo year, if you like. Okay?
Okie dokie.
Right. Now, what do you want me to do? Nominations?
Yep.
I only have the one, and that is Stuart McRae for Vice President.
Right. Now, I've spoken to Stuart already, and Stuart is more than happy to come onto the committee, but feels that since he's really only joined Probus very recently, he's not happy about going to Vice Chair. Stuart, if you want to say anything about that, do so, but that's the position as I understand it. So really, we're looking for agreement for Stuart McRae to come on to the committee. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah, I think we should tell him that being Vice Chair involves no actual work really. He just sits there and listens to David here.
Right, you're muted, I'm afraid.
That's me now, I think, is it? Can you hear me?
Yep, that's you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy to join the committee. I don't think I've been a member long enough to take on a position like Vice Chair. Particularly if that would involve becoming chair the following year. I think I'd need a bit more experience in the club before I would do that.
I think that's fair enough, Stuart.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
I'm happy to be on the committee.
Okay. And I think everybody was happy to welcome you. So welcome, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That'll be great. Your contribution will be much appreciated. Thank you.
Can I just chip in there?
Yep.
David, what position therefore on the committee are we offering to Stuart? If he's not Vice Chair, are we asking him to replace George Gillen?
Yes, I would think that would be the obvious route. Yep.
That position.
Yep.
Just go and get the committee position sorted out.
Okay.
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 Yep. Now, what about the nominations for is the rest of the committee happy to continue in their roles?
I am.
Okay. Yep. So everybody else, I think, is happy to do so. I know that David Elder is happy to continue as our photographer. I know that Russell Darling is happy to continue as the technical officer. Thanks, Russell. So thank you both, and thanks, David. We do have the appointment of an auditor, and Bill Robertson has very kindly agreed to take that role over. This is on the gentle persuasion of Ian Smith, who told him that 2 and 2 do indeed equal 4, and he'll have no trouble with that. Thanks very much, Bill. Thank you. Okay, now, is that all from you, Jerry?
Sorry, what you think?
I say, is that all from you? Are you happy with that?
Well, one very important side issue. Can we ask Stuart McRae to replace George Gillen in leading the Christmas choir? Very important position.
Well, if you can find somebody to play the piano, yes. Because I can't play the piano.
Oh, problem. Who?
Yeah.
Pianists.
Well, we can maybe look at that.
Yes, we can look at that. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Excellent. Okay, right, gentlemen, we've really gone through most of the formal business. What we normally do is we try it on an AGM to provide some entertainment. Now, this has, we simply haven't been able to get somebody in the short time space and with the conditions at the moment to do that. So yours truly is going to now do the second sticking his head on the block business of the day. We'll see how this works, but in a sense, you're going to be my audience reaction for a small plan that I've had for some time. Let me explain the background to it. During lockdown, obviously one of the very few things that we could all do was walk. And I live at the end of the town where within 20 minutes, I can be at the top of the Garden Hills. So for me, the Garden Hills became my lockdown recreation spot. About 2 years ago, I started to actually count the number of times I went up the hill for the simple reason that I'm really rather stupid about statistics. I quite like them, but I don't understand them. And I counted the number, and I managed in the year to get up the gardens 50 times. And I thought, well, that's not bad, you know, because it involved a few other walks around the county as well. Would you believe that during lockdown year, in other words, 2020, I was up at 106 times in the year. Now, this all sounds a wee bit frantic, maybe even obsessional or obsessive, but there was a part purpose to it, part getting me out, keeping me sane, but also partly to record the, if you like, the hills changing face during that time. So the project really was to produce a program, if that's the right word. Gregor, you can tell me what the right word is. Where I would take photographs of the changing conditions on the hills. Now, for this occasion, what I thought I'd do is I'll show you a 6-minute version, which shouldn't tax you too much, but I hope not too many of you are looking at small screens, because quite clearly the bigger the screen you've got to look at, the better these will look. But what I'm proposing to do is to show you some photographs I'd taken up on the hill. I'll not show you the year-long set, because that's about 240 photographs and takes about 15 minutes to show. And you might not be able to survive that long. But anyway, this is your entertainment. If I can now share the screen. And get that out of the way and play this. Jerry, can I ask you to mute again, please? I'll just stop that for a second till I sort out Jerry.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Jerry, you muted now? Yeah, he is. Okay. Right, can everybody see this screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Look at that, and let's get into this. Well, there you go, gentlemen.
Good.
Excellent. Well done.
Excellent.
Thank you. It's interesting that the recording is going on behind you now. Still get that sound. Just let me get rid of it. This has been an interesting exercise from my point of view as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. It didn't bore you to tears, but it does show you just what a variety of lovely scenery we have on our doorstep. And I can tell you that if you're ever bored, I've got about 1,000 of those. Okay, now can I ask everybody to unmute, please?
With you.
Yep.
Okay.
David, I was going to say,
Philip?
in the paper this morning, there's a picture at the top of the Garden Hill. Yes.
Oh, really?
Somebody cycling, yeah, up.
Ah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, in the middle of we had a lot of snow this last, you sort of forget quite how much snow we did have at the start of this year. And the first time when the snow was heavy and I went up, it was quite a dull day. But the second day I went up and the snow was again pretty thick. It was a beautiful sunny day.
Mhm.
And you should have seen the number of photographers up the top with tripods and all sorts. All those photographs, bar I think about 4 or 5, were taken just with an iPhone. I'm past the age. David Elder is my exemplar on this, but he's stronger than I am, and I can only carry a wee mobile phone, whereas he carries his big bag. So the photographs are limited, but cameras actually on these phones are just stunningly good.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, that I'm afraid is your only reward for having attended this morning's meeting, if that's exactly what it can be described as. We've really reached the stage in the day where it's AOCB and me winding up. So is there anything that anybody wants to raise at this point?
David, can you hear me?
Who's speaking?
Graham.
Graham, okay, yes, I can hear you.
We don't want to finish this meeting without recording our thanks to yourself and to Ian for carrying out the requirements of an AGM under very, very difficult circumstances with a degree of skill and humour and patience as well. You know, you've done very well, and we do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Here.
Yeah.
That's very kind, Graham. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, does anybody have anything else to raise they want to raise at the moment? Nope, no one. Okie dokie. Well, we will be meeting as a committee as is usual during the summer months and getting our speaker list drawn up. And no doubt, like all of you, we will be keeping our eyes on the latest reports about COVID and exactly what is going to go on in the community and how much we can travel about and meet in larger numbers and all the rest of it. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. We're pretty well all, I would suspect, in our age group have received our second vaccination. So hopefully, if we're careful, we should all stay well and healthy throughout the summer. And therefore, can I bring this meeting to a close and in advance welcome you back to some form of Probus on September the 6th. I think that is going to be our opening date. So you might like to get that in your diary. If just getting back to the point I raised earlier about membership numbers, if you do come across anyone you consider might be a suitable candidate and would like to join Probus, then it would be absolutely no harm to have a word in their ear and encourage them to do so. So in a sense, this is teachers saying that's your summer exercise. And thank you very much indeed all for joining, and hope to see you around Haddington before then, but if not, meet up with everybody on September the 6th. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Aye.
All the best to everybody.
Well done.
Bye-bye for now.
Aye.
I
Right.